Okay, great. All right, let's get started. Now, welcome everybody to the workshop of teaching supply chain analytics by games and data visualization. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year and hope everybody had a great start of the new year. Now, in the past few years, we have experienced a lot, so which also changed our, teaching or education landscape. So here we have some recent development on teaching analytics, especially with application to supply chain. Some new teaching modules using games and data visualization. Here I'd like to share some of these teaching modules, and if you can email me, I can, I would be happy to share the other resources such as online access or teaching slides, homeworks, exam, and so on. So our first, hold on a second. Now, I believe our teaching objective, right, is to igniting the wood, but not filling the vessels. So we got to make the teaching very interesting to students, and so they can learn out, right? So in these 2-day events, the first day, we'll introduce and play the Hunger Chain simulation, which is also known as the Supply Chain Hunger Games, for teaching shortage gaming, supply, competition, and rationing. And tomorrow, right, we will demo a free business database, right, to teach data analytics by visualization and interpretation. Right, again, if you have any questions, can you please type in the chat box? We will answer them at the end. Okay, Hunger Chain is a competitive supply chain simulation where student teams play retailers competing for limited supply. My name is Yao. I'm a professor of supply chain management at Rutgers Business School. I'd like to acknowledge the contribution of my collaborators, Jumio, Ring, and Min So, and also seminar participants and instructors for their suggestions that significantly improve the teaching experience. Okay, I'll first answer the question of why Hunger Chain. Specifically, how does the game address the current teaching needs? And then I'll talk about learning objectives and teaching plans in detail. I also want to share the feedbacks from students and instructors on the gaming experience. And finally, we'll play a few rounds to get some hands-on experience. Okay, the Hunger Chain simulation was inspired by the COVID-19 shortages, such as groceries, right, household products, and medical supplies, such as vaccines, and subsequent supply chain issues, such as panic orders, right, like these people, right, bought a huge amount of toilet papers, and hoarding, as we have all experienced. Now, one of the biggest problems of supply shortage is actually waste. For instance, millions of COVID-19 vaccines were wasted, right? Even as the shortages, right, plagued other parts of the world. It happened not only for COVID-19, right, but also for regular flu season. Now, this is a typical supply chain problem caused by hoarding, right, because somebody hold too much for themselves. A problem generated by shortage gaming and the prisoner's dilemma. Right, these are important and contemporary topics for supply chain management education. Right, students need to learn. Right, students need to learn the causes of these problems and also know how to handle them. Now, so these topics such as shortage gaming, supply competition, or prisoner's dilemma, they're really hard and dry to teach by lectures, but they can be easily played out. Right. So meanwhile, students are easily distracted, right, in class or in an online class environment, but they can be easily engaged in games, right, especially competitive games. So using game to teach such topics, right, will have the result that students are happier and learn more, instructors simultaneously will spend less effort. Now, let's get on to teaching objectives. Hungry Chain is an online simulation, and its learning objectives are shortage gaming, such as panic orders and hoarding, right? Supply competition and rationing. Now, students will experience, right, supply shortages in the game and identify causes and solutions. Right, shortage arises frequently. Right, for example, mommy bird only has one worm. They have like 5, 6 baby birds. Who to give it to? Right, clearly the one who shouted the loudest. Right, now, in this game, students play retainers, right, sourcing from one supplier. Right, they play orders, and they place orders, and the supplier provides a ration if demand exceeded the supply. Right, the question is how to allocate the limited supply, right, fairly and efficiently. Right, okay, under supply shortages, right, allocation or rationing rules become very, very important. Right, if the allocation rule is not designed well, you will have panic orders and hoarding, which may lead to a complete supply chain breakdown with a wrong allocation, right, of the limited resources, right? So some people may starve, many people actually were starved, while some others will hold excessive inventories and waste. Right, that's a situation we try to avoid. Right, so in this game, we have a competitive environment. Right, so we have multiple retailers competing for limited supply. Now, one important feature of the game is when teams or when players' action, right, will affect other players' payoff. Right, so this game is interactive and competitive. Right, because if one team, right, get more supply, and other team will get less. Right, so this this design of supply shortage actually force the student to think not only for themselves, but also consider their supply competitors' action. Right, consider the competitive environment. Okay, now let me lay out the detailed teaching plan. The game has been used to cover class time by different instructors, right? Depend on your needs, ranging from 45 minutes, right, up to 3 hours. Now, if you only play the shortage game or only simulate panic orders and hoarding, it takes about 45 minutes. Now, but if you combine this game with the news vendor game, right, to teach the news vendor model, it could take up to 3 hours. Now, the benefits of combining these two games, that means the shortage game and news vendor game, is student can learn out because these two games will require a complete different mindset. Now, here is my teaching plan. My personal favorite teaching plan is the follows: is to combine the shortage game with the news vendor game. So students will first play the news vendor game. So you just set the supply high enough, so you will never stock out for the supplier. Right. So in the news vendor game, they can experience, right, they can try and error, they experience the uncertain demand, and then without knowing the news vendor model, that will achieve the best result. So let them play first, let them try it out. After the game, after the news vendor game, I will lecture on the news vendor model and news vendor solution and tell them the magic number. Right. That is, they don't have to consider demand. Right. They just every time they place this number, they will be the best in the long run, which is the news vendor solution. Right. Now, when I do lecture, I also try to relate, right, the news vendor solution to students' experience, because some students will always perform better than the others, right, because they are closer to the news vendor solution. Okay, after I play the news vendor game, then I'll play the shortage game with the same group of students, and let them experience the panic orders, hoarding, supply chain meltdown, and so on. I will relate their gaming experience to real-life practice and show them real-life examples. And finally, provide a solution, such as the fair sharing allocation rules. Now, the benefits of combining these two games, that is the news vendor game with the shortage game, is that students will learn a difference, right, between these two games. Right? For example, in the shortage game, initially they will try to apply the news vendor solution, which of course doesn't work. Right? So by contrasting the news vendor with the shortage games, right, students can better grasp different mindset in each situation. Now, in the Hunger Games simulation, right, this is the game mechanism, right? The students play the retainers. The retainers will place orders, right, to the supplier. The supplier will ration the supply to each of the retainers using certain allocation rule, which what we use in a game is the proportional allocation rule, which is very simple, right? So if, let's say, total order, right, is greater than the total demand, that means the supply is in shortage, right? The ration will be determined by will be proportional to the retainer's orders. So if the retainer orders more, and he's going to get more in ration. Make sense? Right, this is the most intuitive way. So essentially, we will give you whatever you asked. Now, if we don't have enough, we will give you the ration that is proportional to what you asked. Okay, now in the gaming, here's the gaming experience. In the first 3 rounds, so typically we play 6 rounds. Right, each round take about 5 minutes. So in the round 1 and 3, right, the instructor, the students will play the game without knowing the competitive information. That is, they do not know the orders placed by other teams. They can only see their own performance, right? So they tend to apply the news vendor solution, right? But it doesn't work because if they order 100, they may only get 1, okay? Because supply is short. And okay, then soon they will realize that the competitors' orders are much more important factor to consider than their own demand, right? Because the supply was all, grasped by other teams. They have nothing left, right? Now, this is from the rounds 4 and on, the instructor can reveal the competitive information, which contains the aggregated total orders, right, placed by all the retailers. For example, in this game, we can see that, right, in the first period, right, total order is only 40. That's the demo period, right? So in period 1, total order increased to 132, period 2, 200, and period 3, the total order increased to 485. Right? When students see this, right, they become immediately panic, right? So because they see they can clearly see a significant order inflation, right? Despite a stable demand, right? Demand is random, stable, right? So since then, speculating competitors' orders becomes the only important thing, and eventually, demand becomes completely irrelevant, right? The result is significant lost sales and significant surplus inventory, meaning waste in the same time, right? That is the supply chain breakdown. This is the real life trajectory of the game, right? So after the game, at the end of the game, the instructor can visualize the lesson, right, by game trajectory. Now this is built in the game. You can easily visualize the statistics. So here's an example, right? So on the figure to the left, you can see total supply remains constant, right? Total demand is stable, but it's random. And total order, which is in blue, right, increased significantly over time, which is the panic order, right? On the figure to your right, you can see this illustrates the total lost sales and total surplus inventory, total waste. You can see significant right, total lost sales and surplus inventories in the same time, right, which is hoarding. Like somebody holds inventories, but no demand, while other people has tons of demand but no inventory. Okay, so this is a perfect example of the prisoner's dilemma. Right? So between telling the truth and inflating the order, everybody eventually will inflate the order. Right? Although doing so is going to lead everybody into a disaster. Right? That's the prisoner's dilemma. Right? So student has just experienced the prisoner's dilemma by themselves. Now, any real life examples of order inflation? Right? So do you think they need so much toilet papers? I'm sure everybody had this similar experience in a pandemic. Right. So the question is how to handle supply shortages, right? Also, which is also one of the learning objectives. Now, and at this point, right, in the class, you have successfully, right, the students have successfully discovered a real life disaster in supply chain. Right. So to complete the session, I suggest to offer a solution at the end to resolve the disaster and its partially. Right, so students can leave the classroom with some real learnings and also some peace in their mind. Okay, and here is a good solution. It's not perfect, but it's a good solution, right, which is called the fair sharing. And name is ironic because actually it's not fair, but it's I don't know why people call that. Anyway, now in this fair sharing, right, a rule, we're going to use past sales to allocate supply. So we're not going to listen to your orders. Forget about your order, right? Well, only look at how much was sold to you in the past, and we use that number to determine how much you're going to get, right, when the supply is limited, right? For example, right, we're going to allocate limited supply among customers by their percentage of the past 13 weeks of shipments, how much we ship to them, right? For example, if one store contributes to about 10% of the total sales in the past 13 weeks period, right, then we're going to allocate 10% of the supply to that store. Makes sense, right? So the benefit of this is no order, no game, right? Because we're not going to listen to you. We'll only look at the numbers that happened in the past. And also it promotes sales. It provides a clear incentive, right, to the customers to sell more, right? You only get more if you sell more, right? Also guarantees supply delivery, right, to high demanded markets. Now the cons, the disadvantage of this rule is actually it's not fair, because bigger guys, that means the store with higher sales will always get more supply. It's not fair to them, right? Locking the market shares. And secondly is, it completely ignored, right, your customers' forecast and also marketing effort. It might also cause some, supply and demand mismatch. Okay, anyway, but it works definitely better than the proportional allocation rule because that motivates panic orders and hoarding. Now, let me share some feedbacks with you about from students and instructors. Now, the game has been used in a variety of operations and supply chain courses at different universities, right? Now, courses such as operations management or operations analysis, supply chain management, procurement sourcing, and distribution and logistics, everywhere that supply shortages could occur. Right, the audience, including undergraduate students, graduate, right, MS, MBA, and executive and continuing education students. Now, since 2019, that's when the COVID-19 first occurred. The game has been used by more than 100 instructors with 2,200 student teams and 800 games, about 800 games. 700 games. Now, the game also won several awards, such as 2021, the Sciences Journal of Innovative Education, Best Teaching Brave, and also finalist 2019 DSI Instructional Innovation Award. Okay, now the game does have a homework. So the homework assignment of the game is an essay that students write about their learnings, their feedbacks about the game, from which we can collect students' feedbacks. So a sentiment analysis of the essays shows that 90% of the student comments were positive, with about 80% being negative or neutral. Now, just for example, we collect tons of feedbacks or essays from students. And you can do the same to evaluate student learnings. So when students said talk about the games to be very interactive, brought critical thinking to activities, and what impressed him most is the competition aspect of the activities, right? So it says it broaden everybody's perspective and reflections of real life competition. Right? Because students, when we in the classrooms, they often think only about their own activities, operations, or companies. Very rare teaching materials actually give them lessons on how to consider the competitive environment. But this game forces them to consider the competitors' actions or orders. Now, the instructor's feedback is the game successfully boosted student engagement in my online class, which helps me achieve 4.5, 1 out of 5 ratings in my summer teaching evaluation. Now, we also run a test to measure the impact of the game on student learning outcomes. So we designed this as we embedded in the exam, right, to test on students' understanding of the causes, right, of panic orders and hoarding, what caused this behavior, and also understanding of supply chain competition, right, also understanding importance of supply rationing rules. Right, we find that students who play the game, right, achieved a far better score than the control group who didn't play the game but just been taught by lectures. All right, let me recap, and so we can open up for questions. And after that, we will play a few rounds. So we discussed effective online teaching tools, which is called HungerChan, which is easy to set up because it only requires a browser. Also provides solutions to topics that are traditionally hard to teach by lectures. Right, but some of those, as we are covered in this lecture, is in this demo is actually easy to play out. Right, so offer a practical insights through hands-on experience for students. Students are happier and learn more using the game. Right, it also provides a valuable teaching tool for important and contemporary supply chain topic, right, which is shortage gaming, supply competition, and rationing, right, particularly following the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so there's a few video resources, right, for detailed teaching notes. So these are the links I included in the talk, and also I can share this presentation with you if you, so you can easily access these teaching videos, and we can start playing now. So let me look at any questions. Let me look at the chat box. Okay, let's go from the most recent to earliest. So what's the maximum number of students who can use the game? You can 100, 500, no limit on that. The issue with too many students in the game is you have to wait for a long time for people to respond. That's the only issue. The game itself has no limitation. Please share the recordings. Yeah, I will share the recordings. How can I record games? I can send you instructor access after today's webinar, and also the teaching slides, no problem. How to play unsynchronized online. Non-synchronized. Oh, non-synchronized. That's hard. Okay. You can do that too, but so every round, the instructor have the control of the game progress, right? So you can set a deadline for students to submit their orders by a certain time, right? And then you can hit, let's say, next round. Yes, you can do that. Do offline too, unsynchronized. Can you share a link to the chat now? Yes, let me just share to the chat. Actually, I'm going to play. I'm going to invite you to play this game now. So so you can see the web address. How many rounds total? Typically about 6 rounds. 6 rounds is quite enough. So each round take about on average 5 minutes. So you can finish the game in 30 minutes. But do not have 500 students because you are going to wait for a long time for everybody to respond. Okay, let me see some older happy. Okay. All right. Yes, this meeting will be recorded. Actually, it's being recorded. Yes, I will email for if you registered, I will email everybody the recording. Okay, great. The game, and unfortunately, it's not free to use, but it's at the minimum cost. Because the web server, right? You look at any web server, Amazon or Microsoft or Google, they charge. So I have an expense on my side, but I will make the cost as little as possible, as affordable as possible for everybody. I do have a cost for myself. How to okay. Okay, I will give you instructions. Can you send out? Okay, great. Okay, it's possible to play the game individually or with groups. Yes, either way is fine. You can ask each student to play. It's okay, but I think it's better to actually form groups, especially when you have a large class. All right. So now I want to invite everyone. If you are interested, join us in the game. Oh, by the way, this is the link to the game website. It's called hunger.gamespots.net. Okay, if you need the instructor account, just email me. Okay. All right. Now, if anyone wants to, I'm going to start a game now. You place the game in the chat. Okay, sure, I will do that. Let me just let me do the chat. So if you're interested in joining us in this game, please type your email address in the chat. So then I'll copy your email address to the game, and you will experience the game as a student. While I'm talking about how to use the game. So we could have a big game, no problem. All right, so while you are typing your email addresses, so let me show you the instructor page. It's a very simple a web application. It's actually only one page. So there's a few parameters you need to set up for your game. For example, how many groups or how many players or retainers you have. And that's the first number here. Let's say I only have 2, just for example. And also, how many rounds do you want to play? Typically 6. Now, once you determine this, you can put all your student teams or students' email address right into this box right below, and separate it by semicolon. Right. For example, I have 2 players here. I use myself to do an experiment. So 2 of my email addresses are separated by a semicolon. And there's a few other parameters to set up about the game, right? Demand distribution. So we have several choices you can you can select, right? For example, continuous uniform, which is simplest, or discrete normal, continuous normal, and so on, right? And we have demand synchronization. So that means, do you want all the students to see the exact same demand realization or not? Right. So demands, remember, demands in each period is randomly generated. Right. In some cases, such as when you teach news vendor models, for example, you want everybody the same demand realizations because it's easy for them to compare. Right. So you can synchronize the demand or make them unsynchronized. That means the demand for each team in each period, right, may be different. Okay. Now we can set the supply per player. Now this is a critical number, right? The mean, remember, the average demand is 15 for every period. So if you set the supply per player to be smaller than 15, then you're going to have a shortage game on average, right? But if you set, let's say, the supply per player more than 25 or more than 30, then you will have a news vendor game because the supply will never be out of supply. Clearly, the smaller this number, supply per player, will make the game more shortage, right? More short in supply. So you'll face a more severe competition for supply. Now, the last two numbers will be just the news vendor numbers, right? That's the sales price of the product, right? $10. You can say the number you want, right? Cost of the product, $2. Just make sure the sale price is bigger than the cost, right? Now, the last one is the maximum order. Now, usually I just use infinity and let student to choose whatever numbers they like to have, but sometimes they might go too crazy. So you might want to limit like a maximum, right? Let's say 1 million or 1,000 or something. It's up to you. I will show you in the game. Okay, just to now this is we just showed the instructor's game page. Now is the student game page, right? Students, you can see, the student can see their orders, can input their orders, right? Can see their demand, their own demand, not other people's demand, right? And their own, let's say, ration, sales, their own financials, right? Not sales, inventory, profits, and so on. Right? The students with the highest cumulative profit, right, in 6 rounds will win the competition. All right, oops, okay, here. All right, let me come back to the game. Let's see, let me just show you the game. Here. Increase this. Okay, let me see the chat box. I hope I'm not going to have 100 people. Anyway,